This evening, I'm joined by a very special guest who is actually from Bulgaria but currently is in the United Kingdom. I'm joined by Lubo. How are you doing?
I'm very well, Jamie. How are you?
Yes, I'm not too bad, but today's a really, really important, I think, eye opener for myself and people around the world because I think for people, we talk about the football, we talk about Ronaldo's and the Messi's, but we don't talk about the corruption. And I think that's a very major part in football as it is, because that's how it shapes up how the sport is today. But I want to talk about everything, but I want to start off when you were in Bulgaria. You started off in youth football and you played later down the line. You ended up playing there for 7 years in Bulgaria, in the hometown of Berbatov. Now, I want to ask you, how did this come about? Why was football the correct sport for you?
Well, it all started since I was uh, like a kid. My father was watching football, of course. The Bulgarian team at that time was pretty good, the national team. We had good players, so I was following it and I was enjoying it a lot. And at that time, and even nowadays, pretty much every single kid has a ball and play football. We play on the streets, we play in the schoolyards, we play all the time. So it just grabbed me. I'm coming like from family who is a sports family. My father used to train wrestling. My uncle was a wrestler as well, but I was the footballer in the family.
You spoke about your family being wrestlers, and you mentioned two people in your family there. And we always have a stereotype where we see the Russians, the Ukrainians, the Bulgarians, the Romanians, all quite big, muscular people. But in a footballing sense, that must help quite a few people in terms of maybe one-on-ones, trying to shield off the ball. But at the same time, it also takes away attributes such as pace. So could you elaborate on if that would help in a footballing sense?
Uh, yes, it is helping, but also maybe it's making it as well more physical, less technical in that sense. But because wrestling and as well weightlifting in Eastern Europe, the Eastern European countries are good at weightlifting as well. It's more um, one-to-one situation, which is like not a team sport, right? And it's not very relative to the football.
When you were growing up in Bulgaria, you must have, I mean, as we spoke about, you played 7 years in youth football. What was the infrastructure like? Because when you've come over to England, you must have seen that the infrastructure is named as the best in the world. We have some amazing stadiums over here. And you also see it with the youth football. We do have the opportunities to play Sunday league football. But what was the infrastructure like over in Bulgaria?
Right. In my time, when I was growing up, we were playing in very, very bad conditions. I mean, bad conditions. We had the stadiums, but them stadiums were built in the communist time back in the days, which for them days it was good stadiums, but nobody maintained them in the time. So I was growing up in that time when the democracy came to our country and a lot of political things changed. So nobody was focused on the sports at this time. We were playing on stadiums like you can imagine in the city where Berbatov grew up, and he played in the same stadium, same conditions as well. Uh, the first team didn't have training facilities, official training facilities. We are training in the villages around the city. And in them villages, you're going to a stadium which is downhill. They have stones, rocks, like puddles, and uh, no lines. Uh, and sometimes, like animals poo on the stadium as well. And it wasn't the great facilities. We didn't grow up with the great facilities, but on that point I can say that growing up and playing on them bad conditions, once we were going to play a game, for example, in my youth career on a good stadium, it was a lot easier for us to control the ball in the good stadium. So it has some positivities, but not a lot.
You spoke about the touches maybe probably a bit better on a better pitch. Like if you played at Anfield compared to probably where you were playing, there would be a big difference. Let's just say it like that. But you must have been demotivated, and I say that because if you're not getting the support that you would like, or even the amount of correct footballs, and you're playing on a stadium with animal poo on the floor, Does that demotivate you, especially as a youth player?
Of course it does. Especially for kids who are like coming from more posh families, they wouldn't accept that. They wouldn't accept that. Even if they had the skills, they were losing interest. Even us, like as I'm not saying that I'm coming from a very poor family, but a regular family, and it was that demotivating because also we didn't have the right uh, equipment as well. We didn't have the equipment which the kids here in England are having now and training with, like small pop-up goals, for example, ladders, and etc. We had
I'm actually
just
doing some fundraising. Sorry, I'm actually doing some fundraising in Kenya for very similar conditions to you. They don't have the facilities to play. You've got 11-year-olds having to walk miles to be able to just play football. They don't have the rights to. Well, they have the rights, but they don't have the finances to be able to purchase footballs and this kind of equipment that is so necessary for people. However, when you were growing up in Bulgaria, you spoke about Berbatov, and it's just one name from a team that I could only recognize. I mean, I'm going to admit I probably wouldn't recognize a lot of the people at that time in Bulgaria. However, Berbatov stuck out to me. Was Berbatov, he must have been a huge inspiration to you lot, but was he ever down there? Was he ever supplying you with things? I mean, tell me when he was, when was his spark in career? Were you still playing youth football?
So with that's a big thing in Bulgaria. People are talking about it a lot. Like, did Berbatov helped the Bulgarian football? How did he supply us with something and things like that? But he said it in interviews a lot, and it's very professional statement actually, because he helped from football point in terms of the best example is our local club. It's called Pirin. So Pirin Football Club had a contract with CSKA Sofia, the next club to Berbatov, second club of Berbatov, which was percentage after selling the player. And after that, he went to Germany to play for Bayer Leverkusen. So CSKA Sofia received millions. Of these millions, percentage of that went to our club. And then after that, when he moved to England to play for Tottenham Hotspur, again the club received money of that transfer. And then it was 2009, 2010 when he went to Man U, and that was like the biggest transfer at this time, like 30 odd mil. And so imagine that should be at least a couple of millions for our local club. But where this money went is the question. It's not about Berbatov to come to the city and say, I'm buying these balls for the club. Look at me. I mean, from professional point of view, the millions were there. What we've done with the millions, how we helped the youth academy with that, and the
We'll talk
people
about
just
that.
disappeared.
We'll talk about that later on because that's a really interesting point. But I just want to ask you a quick question here about the corruption. It has to be called corruption in Bulgaria. If we had those millions, however much that would have been, in a country like England or Spain or France, would that have been spent in the correct way, or would that have also been disappeared?
So there is a difference between the corruption in Eastern Europe and especially Bulgaria and in England, because corruption is where the money, where we have money, we have corruption. That's it. It's normal thing. But how visible it is a different point. Because, for example, in England, the money invested in football are millions and millions and millions. We don't know how much money they're spending in there, but they are doing a lot for the football, and the vision they have for the club is different than to the vision we have for the club development in Bulgaria as well. So, for example, Liverpool might gain 200 million from transfer, but they will invest at least 100 for the club, and then the rest 100 will be spent somewhere else, or somebody will take some of them millions as well. But in Bulgaria, we are looking very smaller picture. We think about today. We think about, let's make them 10,000 pounds today, and don't worry about tomorrow. And it's very visible because they're doing the things in front of you, they don't care. And the corruption in England is behind the scene, if there is some.
You decided to come to England later down the line and play amateur football, and you did that for quite a few years, and I believe you're still doing that now. When was this sort of realization down this path of yours that you maybe not be able to take it professionally, but you might be able to do it as a side hobby?
The thing was that I actually stopped playing football for a couple of years at all. I just wanted to forget about football at some point of my life after I got traumatized from the Bulgarian situations and etc. But then I kept watching football and I love football. You cannot take the football out of you. So I just met some friends and they just invited me to go and at least have a look at their training session and that and that. So I went there, I had a session with them, they liked me, invited me to play with them. And I was like, why not? I just I have to play football. It just cannot I couldn't stay without it. So I just kept playing and I really enjoyed it and don't regret that.
As a youth player, what was your best attributes? Because a lot of attributes might stick with you now. For example, maybe your technical side of the game or the strength because you're weightlifting or whatever you may have done. So, what was your best attributes and your best? If you had to describe yourself as a player, maybe now or back then, what would it be?
I would say stamina, first of all. I was running a lot. I was a winger. Pace, acceleration, crossing, and finishing, I would say. And determination, of course.
That has to be a key one, and that's what a lot of people say. When you were in Bulgaria, and we were talking about these years when you turned up to these stadiums that, like we said, had to poo on the floor, they were unlevel, and things like this. Where was your career at this point? How old were you?
So I started playing for a club when I was 9, 10 years old. I played for a couple of years, but it wasn't professional then because at this stage you don't have it in the professional academies, that age group. Uh, and it was funny if I look back then because the coach was like in his 60s. He is a legend of our local club as well. He actually played against Maradona with the Bulgarian national team, which is like, wow, this coach is a legend, right? It wasn't motivational, but he was getting us with a little minibus, and you can see like 30 odd players crawling in the little minibus going to a training session in the near village. And then there was a point where I become 12 and there were exams from the small academies around to try to go to the professional local club team. And I went to one of the exams. That's the first time I met the little corruption in Bulgaria. So I remember I went with my father in that exam on the big local stadium in the city. Um, we've done the exercises and everything. There were different drills and that people were observing us, our skills and everything. After after the exams, we went all together. They were saying the names who were signed for the club. And some of the players who were signed from my club, I was surprised that they were signed, and some of them who were like more skillful than them weren't. And my name didn't appear there. I was a little skinny guy and I wasn't surprised a lot. I was hoping, of course, but I was thinking, well, I'll try next year. But then my coach looked at me because the coach knew my grandfather. He looked at me and said, "Oh, Lubo, uh, why we didn't hear your name?" And I was like, "I don't know. You tell me." And he went like, "Don't worry. There is a second tour next week. You come back next week. We'll pick you up then." And I was thinking, okay, so why why I was here then? Why you didn't tell me to come on the second tour straight away? And then my father heard that and saw what happened. He knew about the things already. I didn't because I was young. and he didn't let me go on the second tour. He didn't let me go on the second tour. I was very upset of him then, and angry as well. But I realized now why he didn't want me to grow up in this environment where you have to know someone or have to pay to someone to go in the academy, which was happening. So some of the players were coming from rich families, paying the coaches some money, some silly money, to get their kid in the family and destroy the future of the others. And then after 2 years, I was training 2 years wrestling, of course. And then after that, I came back and went for trials in the academy, and I was picked up. And that was like, wow, dream came true again. Football is life again. Berbatov was playing in Tottenham Hotspur, and I was thinking, yes, I'm following his steps. Uh, and yeah, I had very good memories of playing football. Of course, the great times, like teenage years of your life playing football with for your favorite local team. But then we start facing the real corruption, which was starting at that age. So you're playing for a professional academy, which supposed to pick the best players, right? And the one of the example where I have a lot of stories, but the worst story, which won't forget, was we reached the same quarter final of the domestic cup, and because back then we didn't have so many tournaments like here. Here we have 4 or 5 preseason tournaments and 4 or 5 end of season tournaments for the kids. Everybody get medals, everybody get cups, everybody are happy enjoying it. That's how it's supposed to be. But back then we didn't have that, or if we had one tournament, only the winner get medals, the rest are going home. So I didn't get any medals at all. And getting to a semi-final of the cup of this stage when we were 15-ish, under 16 we were. That was like a dream. We are getting a medal from the domestic cup, right? And waiting for that quarterfinal, we couldn't sleep. We were a great team. We were playing so good. We were first in the table, I think. And the day came. The coach said that everybody are for the squad. He didn't make the squad. He didn't leave anyone out. He would announce the squad on the day. So we went in the changing room, and what we saw in there was 6 or 7 players from the year below us, so 1 year younger than us, who weren't playing for our team at all. And we're like, what you guys doing here? And they were like, uh the our coach said to come. I was like, okay, let's see what happens. So our coach came in, the director of the youth academy came in with him, who was their coach at that time as well. And he said that them 6 or 7 players are better than some of our players. So that's why they will play instead of us. And me at this time, I was playing regularly. I was starting up regularly as well. And I wasn't picked up for the team. And that was like heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking, not only for me, for the rest 7 players who weren't picked up. And of course, we lost because them 7 players, even if they were better than us, they didn't play with the team. So how can you play good football when you don't know each other, right? We lost that, and then I stopped for a few months again. I stopped playing for a few months because I didn't want to go back. But then my father was like, "No, you go back. It's better to train than to be on the streets and do bad things with other kids." So yeah, I continued, and yeah, I managed to get to the men football, but if you want, I can speak about that now, or we can come
No,
back to that
perfect.
later.
Go ahead. Tell us. Tell us.
So, but yeah, let's stay just for a moment on that age group. So at this moment, we had some players who are decent players, very good players. One example is one kid. he was from our he was from our street actually. He was living next door. He was very skinny. He didn't have any football skills, right? When we were going to play in on the street or in the schoolyard, we didn't let him play sometimes. But his father was an ex-football player, and he was coaching the academy as well. So he was starting regularly, and there were three players playing on his position who didn't have the chance to start a single game for 2 seasons. Of course, they gave up. They gave up, and I'm betting that if they continued playing, at least one of them could make it, because one of them was so technically gifted. He was doing amazing things. And this guy, he's amazing guy, the son of the coach. He's amazing person, but he didn't want to play football. But because of his father, he had to play. So there we go. Three more were out. Of course, there were people whose fathers were coming up like sponsors. So this sponsor is buying T-shirts or buying footballs, and they were playing. Good players didn't get a chance to play. Then when that happened and I kept playing for a couple of, or one more year in that academy, I went in another academy which was local as well. And this academy was working. They took a lot of stuff from German academies, and it was a bit better academy than the professional team academy. So I tried there, but that's where I felt discriminate as well, because the rivalry between them two academies was very big. So, and at this time there were like few teams in the town, and two of them got engaged. So a lot of players had to leave or weren't happy with that, and they went in that academy. And I was one of them. And once I went to the first session, the coach said to me to go with the new kids. Fair enough, I'm new. I'll go with the new kids. I went to the new kids, but I just realized that most of them are from my previous club. And I said, like, is that what's going on? Said, well, we are not allowed to train with the first team. And I was like, okay. So I trained for a few months, and then the winter break came. But I was giving my best. That's me. I just want to give my best. I was doing sessions myself outside, running like crazy and that. And I showed off. I showed off in front of the coach, and the coach wanted to register me for the season. And the day came, and he said that 10 players will be excluded of the team. And I was expecting to exclude me as well, because you could see like nobody else from that team is talking to you. It was divided on 3 or 4 groups, that team. It wasn't like you couldn't see the team working there. And I was just expecting that, but he stood up and said that from all the new players, he'll keep only me, because I'm an example for hard work and that and that and that. And I felt special. I felt very good. And he said he will be ready for the next season game, league game. Next week came, he said, bring a picture, because we need to give a passport picture to them to register us, because they still do registration on paper in there, like the third world. But the day came, and he went to the session very angry. He started talking to us that there is no future in the Bulgarian football, like random things, and we're like, wow. And then he came to me at the end of the session. He came to me and said, the owner of the club, the academy, doesn't want to register me. And I was like, why? Because you're coming from the other team. The only reason. I was like, but does it matter? I'm 15, 16 years old. And they didn't give me chance to play. That's why I had to change the town went to the town next, close to ours. Then I start playing, and the coach from the first team, the men team, I was 17 already, picked me and one more guy to go and train with the men team. And then I saw the real football in Bulgaria. I faced the real corruption there. You could tell straight away when the match was fixed. I wasn't registered because they told me once I become 18, then I will get a contract and that and this. So I was training with them. But before games, they were taking us with the first team in the changing room in the games to watch the games with them on the bench and that. And you could feel that when the match was fixed, the players were acting differently. They weren't like motivated to play. It was like just, yeah, we have to play today. Like we have to do the job, take the money. And I, after years, I start hearing stories from them like that. The correct result was fixed. So how good actors they were is just skills.
I want to know, you said about Bulgaria and how they did the paper registration sort of from a third world country. But before you spoke about your father pushing you back into football because he didn't want you to be ending up on the streets and be a thug or a Bulgarian roadman, as they might call it over in England. And that must have been, I mean, I forgot how old you were in that scenario, but for some people that must have been quite tempting to maybe turn to the drug side of things or just turn to alcohol to take themselves away from the situation. Were you ever tempted by that route of life?
Of course, because the nightlife in Bulgaria is very attractive, first of all, and then the example which the professional players are giving to the youth players is that. So, footballer in Bulgaria is a synonym of nightclub parties, drugs as well, and corruption, unfortunately. So you're seeing them professional footballers playing in second league, third league, first league, it doesn't matter. Going out, getting all the good girls, driving all the nice cars in not so rich country. And once you become like 17, 18, uh, or you've been picked up for the first team or something like that, then you think you're a superstar and you made it already. And that's one of the main reasons that the Bulgarian football is in low level now, because there is no regulations in the first men teams. It just it's not like in England. If you play for Liverpool and you go out and you being cuffed, probably that's it with you. The contract is gone if you do something silly, right? But in there, they're getting in fights, they're getting drunk, drinking with fans outside, and that's the example. So I was tempted. Of course, I was going out as well, doing silly stuff, but I could see and realize how it affects me on training session. And I wasn't doing it so much at the time. But a lot of players lost interest in football because they start going out 15, 16, and they loved it more there than on the pitch. So that's another reason which the talents are stopping from becoming professionals.
You might say this to young Bulgarians, to young Spanish people, to whoever they may be, but obviously you are now based in England. So for your job today, this is jumping ahead a bit. I wanted to go back in a minute, but we're going to jump ahead. I just wanted to ask you, when you look at these players now, and you do have a load of them all over the world, but let's just specify on England here, that just don't want to turn up to training. They think the contract's going to come in front of them. They think everything's going to be just linking up so perfectly. But in reality, we all know that's not how life works. So, do you often tell the youth, if you have a chance to talk to them, that this is either way you're going to end up in a professional contract, or you're going to end up without your dreams if you don't work hard enough, and you could even end up like a Bulgarian thug?
Well, it's a good question, because sometimes you need to tell them that. You need to give an example with things like that. But as a football coach now, it's more like up to the personnel. It's more psychological thing which you have to work with every single person player differently. So if you tell that to someone, he might not understand it and not accept it. But if you say it, because now in my team we have a lot of nationalities and they're 10 years old, and you can give it as an example for the Polish, for the Ukrainian guys in there, some Bulgarians as well, which they saw that back home. But I don't think some of the local guys can understand that example. You have to live through it to know it.
The team that you coach now, you said they were 10 years old, correct?
Yes.
So for them, they still might be obviously understanding what corruption is and how difficult it is to even get these pro contracts that everyone dreams of. But it's difficult to get there. But I really do understand where you're coming from, because we often get told here in England, I often get told that the worth ethic of English people is nowhere near what it would be on a stereotypical level to a Bulgarian, to a Romanian, just because of where they've come from, just because that they haven't had these opportunities in the past. So um, they now do have these opportunities, so they want to take everything that they can. So do you see, for like the Ukrainians that obviously are in the war and they have families that are probably still over in Ukraine, do they understand it better, even if they've gone through all the trauma in the past?
Well, in general, if you look the bigger picture, maybe yes. But of the end, for me, it's up to, again, to the personnel, because I have a lot of English friends as well, and it's not about where you're coming from, who you are. It's up to who you are actually, not to where you're coming from. Because even some of the Ukrainians I know, or Polish and etc., Romanians, they just come here and forget where they're coming from and who they are. But there are also some English people who uh, just know the real, well, see the bigger picture, and like do their best and just do whatever they do, trying to do their best, and they're great people. But a lot of there is that group of English people who are relying on the easy life kind of stuff, because England is advanced country, and there is a saying since the Romans time, that as more advanced the country is, the weaker the people are. So maybe because of that, we start thinking, yes, them poor people coming here working harder than us, or they're taking our jobs and etc. But it's not only where you're coming from. It's up to you. It's up to the personnel. I can see even you're doing great stuff, like trying to get your YouTube channel up the the first lines in YouTube and all that, which is
Cheers.
great, which is great. That's why I wanted to support you as well. But yeah, I don't think it's uh, the nationality. It's all about the personnel.
Just to confirm to you, this is also going to be on the radio as well, on Unite Radio. So it's Spotify, YouTube, and Unite Radio. So it's all three of those. But I really, really appreciate your kind words. And somebody who's actually inspired me to do this, it's a whole host of things, my father, my dad. But I want to base it off you. There's a similar contrast, because my father is also into football as well. He was a rugby guy, but he's gone into football. We've kind of built each other, and we've kind of built a backbone off each other. So football's my primary sport, and it's now kind of his primary sport as well. And you spoke about your father pushing you back into what he believed for you was the correct option. Was your father the biggest inspiration in your life?
Yes, I can say that it was one of the biggest inspiration of my life, because uh, I was going out. I was seeing people who were dealing with drugs as well. I haven't dealt with drugs, but like you know how it is. You're a teenager. You go out. You meet people, like, and then also there is that thing in back in Bulgaria where the thug life is priority. The 90s are we're still living the 90s. The 90s was the biggest like mafia time in Bulgaria, and there are them mafia bosses who are like inspiration for the youngsters, and they still are, unfortunately. But to don't go very political, he just knew that if I keep going out and meet them people, I will become one of them. And he knew that the new generation is looking up to the fancy cars, fancy girls, fancy parties. So that was the easiest way to get there. And if he let me keep going out all the time and didn't have control of me, because he was also a captain in the army as well, so the discipline was pretty pretty good
Serious.
at home. Yeah. And one day I just remember when I become 17, 18, and I start seeing the things in football that I couldn't probably make it. We weren't in very good financial situation, and then he didn't work for a few years, and he was seeing that I'm meeting the wrong people and I'm going out quite often without money and having great time. Uh, so one day I just remember I came home and it was like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, drunk. He said, "We'll talk tomorrow." Once I woke up, he approached me and asked me, do I want to live with him and be his friend, or to just take my stuff and go live with my rich, good friends? And then that made me think who actually I am, because I just looked around. I saw my family on one side who are like very honest and good people and always tried to taught me the right way. And then I looked at my mates at that time whose families were criminals as well, not only them. It coming from the family and that, and I was thinking, if I joined them, I had to join their family and leave my family. So then I just realized that I have to keep and stay with the family and go back to sports, pretty much.
That's two very different sides of life. You have got the drugs and the alcohol, which scientifically is proven to end your life short. It's proven to slowly but surely kill you off, as sad as that may be. But then you've got the other side of life, which is the sport and the keeping fit, which could increase your life. So that's two very big differences on a wide scale. However, when you moved to England, can you please talk me through how, like, the process to move to England for yourself? And why was England the correct move for you? Why was England the home in the end?
Well, at that stage of my life when I decided to stop football, I just I just realized that I need money to start gaining money from football, right? So I need to pay someone to get in a squad and then get a contract. We didn't have that opportunity at this time, and I had to start working there. I started working for something very silly, like 250 pounds per month on a petrol station. It was terrible. 12-hour shifts, night shifts as well, 12 hours, and that. And then I started university in there, which I finished, bachelor degree in applied linguistics, English and Russian. And I had the opportunity to go to USA. I went to USA for work and travel program for 4 or 5 months, and then when I worked there, I saw the totally different way of life, totally different salary as well. So I went back and I saw the difference, and the difference just shocked me. And I had friends who were already living in England, so I was just so devastated of the way of life in Bulgaria at that point, and I was just thinking, I don't have future here. So I called my friends, asked them if they have place to stay. They said, yes, yes, of course, lots of space in my room. So I came here. My friend was living in a single bed in a single room as well, and I had to stay there for a month before I find a room. But yeah, I was a Domino's pizza delivery driver. I don't want to make advertise, but yes, that was my first job. And I started from there. And 1 year, year and a half, I didn't think about playing football. It was I was getting something like 1,500 per month, and that was like a lot of money for me. So I had a lot of time to party as well and spend the money for for fun stuff. But yeah, after that I met my friend who's playing football. Funny enough. Sorry for coming back, but
No problem.
um, getting the job in Domino's was because my friend couldn't speak English very well, and he was a driver in Domino's, but he couldn't ask his manager to get me there. So, but he said that the managers are playing football, five-a-side football, and he would try to ask them to get a friend there. So he got me to play a five-a-side football with the managers and him on a five-a-side pitch. And the area manager approached me and asked me if I can come next week to play again because he liked the way I play. And I was like, of course, yes. And he was like, what do you do for a living, by the way? I was like, nothing. I'm looking for a job. And then he went like, tomorrow, go to that shop there, tell the manager I send you. And the football got me the first job in England, funny enough, as well.
How old were you at the time when you went to the USA for the opportunity that you had? How old were you at the time?
I was 19 in USA and 20,
That's crazy.
yeah, and 20 when I came to England. Now I'm 29.
So you spent 9 years in England in a different society, you could call it, in terms of the Bulgarian corruption. There is obviously plenty of corruption to go around here in England, don't get me wrong, but compared to what you were saying in Bulgaria, there is still a lot of corruption on a different scale. You spoke about a different there was a different way of life in America, and again that's turned around on its head because we see over there the amount of incidents that are going on there on a day-to-day basis, and the country is apparently killing itself in a matter of way. And this Bulgarian thug situation is linking quite a lot with the mafia in America and everywhere that you're going. It's everywhere, don't get me wrong, and it has built you up as a person. But this job at Domino's and this first job that you managed to get, that must have built your motivation 9 years down the line for today.
Oh yes, definitely yes. And I don't regret anything. I'm even proud of that. I could make it alone. At that time I was thinking, I was 19. I didn't know anything, right? But at this stage of your life, you think I know everything. I can do everything the best way. And yes, I was one of the best and quickest drivers. But yes, then after that I started making connections and links to people, making friendships until I got a job in the university, Canterbury Christchurch University in Canterbury, where I also work now as well. But the other thing is that I couldn't think of becoming a football coach when I was in Bulgaria. That was something unthinkable, not just uh, a dream. It wasn't a dream. It was unthinkable. You should have been a professional footballer to become a football coach. So that's the other big difference between England and Bulgaria. So even Berbatov's father was a footballer, professional footballer. His grandfather was a footballer. So he don't he's not ashamed of it because that was his way of his path of career. But that's how it works. So I didn't have that, and I didn't have the money to pay, and I just didn't think about becoming a coach at all. Also, the education system of coaches in there is like footballers who didn't go to school were getting the football coaching certificates, and they didn't have a clue what they're doing as coaches. And it's proven the state of football now.
is the corruption in Bulgaria, is it still around? Because you did mention it was around, but could you give us more in depth? Has things gone away or things come back or have things become worse?
Yes, unfortunately, there is still a big corruption in there. Examples, millions, but my personal example is, I'm not gonna say names because they're still my mates and still playing as well. But one of them, he was a national representative as well, playing for the national team, and he was at this time, it was 6 7 years ago, some, no, sorry, 10 years ago. But 10 years ago, the situation didn't change. So 10 years ago, I went to this nightclub, met him, joined him. He was pretty drunk, and he was playing for the champion of the league at this time. And I joked with him, and in a funny way, asked him who will become a champion this year. And it was Christmas time. He hugged me and said, "Trust me, this team," not saying the team as well, but this team just came from second league, got promoted to first league, and he said this team will win the league, and we win the cup. And I laughed at him and said, "You're too drunk, man. Just keep drinking, go home." He said, "Remember that." I was just still laughing, and then suddenly it came true. So that was Christmas time, and this guy knew how it would finish. Another recent example was it first division league match. It's between two teams who could get relegated. So the match was, if the one team wins, who wins stays, right? 1-1, penalty for the home team, and a foreign player got the ball to take the penalty. The captain is a Bulgarian local. He started fighting with him he to take the penalty. And at the end, this foreign player won the fight and got the ball, put it on the spot, and suddenly the owner of the club came in the middle of the game to stop this player of taking the penalty and got the captain to take it. And what happened? The captain took it and missed it. And then that team got relegated. And that happened live on TV. And he just got that foreign player out of the stadium, the owner of the club. And you're thinking, like, what the hell is going on? Why this is happening?
You said about corrupting games, and there was something on the news a few years ago where you had to pay £1 million to somebody to win a golden medal at the Olympics, something around that, or a medal at the Olympics. But they said you still have to be half decent at the thing that you're doing to be able to achieve the medal. Because if you wanted to rig the game to win 2-1, you still have got to score these 2 goals, regardless of how it goes. So how did they get these results to go their way? Because what happens if I paid you £10,000, but what I wanted to happen didn't happen? Then what happened?
It is simple. It is simple. So the most common players to be uh, paid, not paid,
Yeah, yeah. Yes, yeah.
bribed, are the goalkeepers and the defenders. So the salaries are not so big back there. So but the odds are big. So um, you pay the goalkeeper, for example, 5,000, and 3,000 the defender. The defender makes a penalty, the keeper just let it go, or just leave the player to go. And you can see a lot of football games, because I'm of course still watching to see what's going on, but you can see some of the games, it's visible the defender is not chasing. Is he injured? No, he's not chasing, just let him in goal, and the keeper just dive on the other side. And it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. But now, actually, Dimitar Berbatov is trying to get um, the charge of the football association, and it's going viral. And people are protesting around the country as well. because 18 years we are under the same people in charge, and even the clubs who are supporting them don't want to support them. And another thing there is that it the mafia is like octopus, right? And it has its long legs everywhere. So what they do and what they've done already, they had elections for president of the Bulgarian Football Association. One was the recent one, and the other one was Dimitar Berbatov with his team. Uh, and I think you might heard of him, Stilian Petrov, Big Stan, captain of Aston Villa. He is in his team as well. So they're coming up like the future and the younger generation who want to take charge of it. But what happened is that the current Football Association president and his team excluded 150 teams from the Football Association and from all of the leagues because they were supporting Berbatov. At the end, they won with some very small difference. And now, and it was, they lied as well in the process. They lied as well. They're in the court now, but they they just can like extend this court for years now and still stay in power, right? And the other funny thing is that they keep excluding teams, and if that keeps going, there won't be any leagues in Bulgaria. you know and it's all good. It's all good. They say no, there is no corruption, no, there is not that, no, we're all good. But yeah, finger crossed, hopefully he'll get there and try to fix the things.
I want to talk about Berbatov again because earlier on in today's show, you said that Berbatov wasn't really stepping up to the mark, but in a footballing sense, he was. But it's basically saying he wasn't really paying anything out of his own pocket. I wonder if he was scared. If he was scared that if he put in £1 million, that a lot of that money would be stolen by the FA.
Probably yes, and I'll tell you why. Because the football owners of the clubs in Bulgaria, most of them are connected to the actual mafia, and they had good history with the police and everything. Uh, and to be an owner of a club in Bulgaria is very dangerous job
But why?
because it's one of the most expensive businesses in Bulgaria. A lot of, if you look in the history back since the 90s till now, a lot of them were killed as well because they're part of some other organization, a part of football. And for example, some of them are trying to do a good business and try to get out of this and invest in football and legalize their businesses. But they've been stopped from the rest because if they do that, they will show off and go above them, and then they won't let the rest to do as much money as they're doing now. And that's why he wants to get the presidential post in the football association, but not to get in that market, in that as a business. So a role in the football association is one, setting up rules and etc., and then making them people, following them rules and trying to work for the football, instead of creating a club, invest in a club, and be on the way of them other owners who are doing their stuff. Like examples are like how they do money is they're buying cheap foreign players, making them superstar top goal scorers, and sell them the half season next season. And that's why I said earlier that they think about today, not for tomorrow. They don't invest in them youth academies. They're doing their all fixed games between them. So if I make a club and go there and decide to don't be part of these fixed games and fixed seasons, I'm in a bit of a danger. But if I try to get the the highest post as a president of the FA, then I start working with the government and the country, and probably it's more safe as well.
Will this ever change? Because just you said we don't want to go into politics, which is completely correct. We shouldn't be talking about politics on this show. However, I have done so in the past. But I wanted to ask you if you want to go off topic a tiny bit here. Is the Bulgarian government as corrupt as the footballing side? Because I know a lot of people around me that have gone to Bulgaria this year, and it's becoming quite a hot spot, especially with the beaches and the cities over there. But I want to know from that sense if it is corrupt, and will it ever change? Will the corruption ever stop in Bulgaria?
To be honest, they're saying that the football is a reflection of the country. And yes, it is very corrupt. It's starting from very, very young age. Even from kindergartening, you need to have the links and the money and connections to get into a kindergartening because they're not enough. So it starts from there, going through the schools and going to works, ethics, and etc. It is becoming a bit better than it was 10, 15 years ago, but only in the big cities. The rest is like divide and control. And the same is in football. So if you keep your population from the political point of view and your local clubs in football from football point of view divided and poor, you can control them easier. So that's what's happening in the football as well. They're bribing the little small poor clubs with 10 footballs, 11 bips, and this club is voting for the football association for the same people. That's what's happening with the local elections for mayors, for presidents. They're bribing them with meatballs. You know what I mean? They're making a party, giving them $50 to vote. And this person is thinking, this 50 quid will do the week for me. I'll take them and I'll vote for them. They're good people. So, but they don't think about the future. They don't think about their kid. What will happen with their kid after this bad vote? So hopefully it will change because Bulgaria is part of the European Union. So do the football is part of UEFA and FIFA. But at that point, I want to ask why FIFA and UEFA are not looking as deep in the Eastern European countries as they do in the Western countries. The best example is the Spain president of the Football Association in Spain. There was a big scandal about him just kissing a player on the pitch. Yeah, fair enough. I'm not defending him. You shouldn't do that. But that's just a kiss. And our president of the Football Association got caught with a picture of a person called Dan Tan, who is known as the king of fixed games in the world. And he has a picture partying with him. And UEFA didn't take no actions about it, no questions, no nothing.
But why? Why do you think that is? Could you elaborate on to why you think Bulgaria is mistreated in that sense?
Because Bulgarian vote for UEFA chairman is valued the same as the English vote. So this person probably is suitable for them as he will follow their rules and will vote for them next year, next elections. Because that's what's happening in Bulgaria, which is visible for me to see. And for the Western countries, this is happening behind the scenes. And the people cannot see that. So I don't see other reasons. Otherwise, they would took some actions, and he would be gone, and the football will grow up. Same happening in different Eastern European countries. Why UEFA and FIFA are not taking some actions against that corruption in there?
Well, we are approaching the last few minutes of the episode. We've probably got 1 or 2 minutes to go. So I just wanted to ask you what it was like to, when you were playing in England and, well, now in England, then Bulgaria. What's it like for you? Because you're doing the role currently. So what's it like for you to become a coach, but then also become a player? How's that transition?
Very interesting and uh, challenging as well. Very interesting and challenging, but as a footballer, I like new challenges, and it's very enjoyable. And I want to develop and give the young players what I know, and to teach them what I learned, what is bad and good, and to see some future superstars from my team, of course.
That is everything from me today. Look, I had a whole load of questions. I probably had another 30 questions to ask, but because of the Bulgarian side of football and everything that came into play, we managed to talk even better than what I had prepared. So I just wanted to say thank you very much, Lubo, for joining me today.
Thank you very much for the interview, Jamie. I wish you good luck with what you do. It's amazing.
Thank you very much. I'll be talking to you soon. Thank you.
Have a nice one, mate. Cheers.
You too. Bye.
Bye.